Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. Is Karl Jobst in denial of his lawyers and the terrible job they did? I think so. I really do. If you guys remember, for those of you who didn't follow the trial, there was a point in the trial where, his lawyers were breaking down what they had cost. And at that point, they were costing more than Billy Mitchell's lawyers. And even the judge was like, what are you guys doing here? And Karl has always defended these lawyers, saying that they did a good job, this and that and the other. Nobody else, at least in the legal community that I heard of, thinks so. And people that followed the trial, even Ernst Katz, that was covering the trial, didn't think he did such a good job. He had to intervene I think at least once that I can recall, where this guy was missing it. And even during the closing arguments, when he was listening to what they said, he could see the mistakes that he was doing in real time. And this is just a layperson, not a lawyer. And Ernst Katz seemed like he had a better understanding of the case than Karl's lawyers. And it looks to me and to, pretty much anybody observing this case as you follow it along, is that Karl didn't make the greatest of choices when it comes to lawyers, apparently by the results. And he chose a lawyer that was not as good as Billy Mitchell's, and he was paying more money. So he didn't do his due diligence. He didn't manage the case correctly. I believe that even in the beginning, this guy had like the wrong date, and he seems like a really young, gung-ho guy that, claims that he has expertise in whatever many fields and what have you. But I think that this case wasn't his priority. It just didn't seem like he was prepared. And and the outcome's so terrible that he didn't win anything, like not a single concession, nothing. I mean, there is nothing to hold your head on this case. And Karl is still like, yeah, we did a great job. It reminds me of somebody who knows they got suckered on a deal, but, they don't want to admit that they got suckered. Because if you remember, this case was supposed to cost them $200,000 at first, Australian, and then it went to 400, and then they wanted to go 600, and that's when he started saying, "Hey, wait a minute, this just keeps going higher and higher." And again, this is not the level of lawyer that Billy Mitchell had, and if it ends up happening that he paid more than Billy Mitchell for his lawyers, I mean, it's going to be apparent to anybody, and I believe that to be the case, let me tell you. Because now he says he paid over 600,000 Australian dollars to this guy, right, to this law firm that is not as reputable, that obviously is not as good in court, that got outmaneuvered by Billy's team, that just has less experience, and let's face it, they just didn't do Karl any favors whatsoever. And for Karl to be defending them, saying, oh, they did a great job and this and that and the other, Stevie Wonder could see these guys did a terrible job. And the fact that he's just not pissed, you would think you'd be pissed if you spend $600,000 on anything and you didn't get your money's worth. I don't care what it is that you bought. But in this case, you paid $600,000, and those $600,000 cost you way more. They cost you $350,000 that you have to give to Billy Mitchell. Now you're close to $1 million, plus lawyers' fees. He's over $1 million. The level of failure and anger that any normal person would feel in this situation, any normal person would be super pissed, and he's not. He's like, they did a great job. Let me tell you something, guys. If I was in his shoes, right? And I'm not saying not a lawyer, not giving you legal advice or anything like that. But at this point, I wouldn't be looking to sue Billy Mitchell. I'd be looking to sue these lawyers. Like, what did you guys do? Like, you guys were working on another case. You didn't, if you remember, they didn't really cross-examine that thoroughly a bunch of the witnesses, and they just did a subpar job. And if they charged, 30% more, let's just say, than Billy Mitchell's lawyers, I mean, I would at least sue for the 30%. I would say these people saw me coming, and they probably did. This Karl Jobst didn't have any experience in this stuff. He just looked somebody up in the phone book. They saw what kind of money this guy had, and they saw him coming. They saw him coming. This Karl Jobst is like a guy that walks up to the car dealership, asking for the price of the car. He thinks it's pretty good, and then says, "Well, I'm going to pay cash then." Doesn't ask for a discount, nothing. And they're like, oh, well, that's just the basic car. We need to add all these other things in here, and you need to add this and that and the other. And they keep upping the price. And he's just saying, okay. And then finally he's like, wait a minute. That's too much. I need a discount. After, he's paid all that stuff. They saw this fool coming. And I think he has a hard time accepting that he really made a bad decision on the lawyer. They did a terrible job. And he didn't manage his case well. He didn't manage the people's money well. That's the thing when you donate to these people that don't have any experience in something like this, where like, okay, well, who are you getting? Who is the lawyer? Right? If you're going to donate to somebody, okay, I want, money for my defense. Well, who are you hiring? Oh, Joe Blow. What does Joe Blow want? Why am I going to give you money to spend on a lawyer that's unproven? Why am I going to give you money on a lawyer that's less than Billy Mitchell and gives you a less chance to win? And I think that could be the pressure, right? The pressure could be that he can't face his audience and tell them, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I took your money, I took your $200,000, whatever it is that he raised, plus whatever private donations that he got. And he doesn't have the face to tell all those people, you know what? I screwed the pooch. I took all your money, I didn't have any experience, and I blew it. I hired not the best lawyer. They didn't do the best job, and I ended up wasting all your money because I didn't know what the hell I was doing, even though I told you I did. Even though I had all this bravado, though I made it appear like this was a slam dunk and all this and that and the other. But behind the scenes, I was scared. Behind the scenes, I didn't know what I was doing. Behind the scenes, I was outsmarted not only by Billy Mitchell, by his team, but by my own lawyers. This is a complete destruction. I believe this is why he's in denial of what kind of job those lawyers did, because they took him for a sucker, and he was a sucker with somebody else's money. All right, humans, that's just my opinion. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but that's just what it appears to me why he won't criticize his own lawyers. He's not going to win an appeal. They're not the cheapest lawyers in the world. And if he stays with the same people to represent him again, Jesus Christ. But who knows, in this day and age, he'll choose the same lawyers and the same people will give him some more money so he can go and piss it in another losing case. Gerard is just around the way. All right, humans, I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.